Okay, hey. This is Life Changers coming to you with life healing, life altering stories of people that you probably will never get to meet on your own. And so that is what I do. My name is Blondie Clayton, and I love bringing stories of people who have overcome so many things in their lives, and they've seen some healing and some miracles. And so today we're going to, it's just another episode to do that. How many of you have or had family members that were going through some kind of mental illness episode? Well, I don't know if you have, but I have. My grandson, when he was 16 years old, he started hanging out. He was a 4-point-something student, but he started hanging out with a group of children, and they started doing drugs. And one day, him and this young lady were crossing the street, and she had stepped out, and the car was about to hit her, and he jumped in front of the car, and, of course, he ended up in a coma for several months. And I'll tell you, when a family member is going, and his life hasn't been the same since then. We've had him in all kinds of places, but nothing seemed to be working that well for him. And I was just, as his grandmother, I had been boastful of just how well he was doing, how smart he was, and here he was now in this situation. And I was really embarrassed. I really did not want to go with him anywhere. I did not want to. I mean, I talked to him on the phone regularly, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so not knowing what to do with it, I mean, what do? You could either stay away from the child, or you try to get into their circumstance and just kind of work with what you have before you. And our family was feeling very helpless at the time. And even though he was on medication, there were times that he would call me up and he would call me his mother. He would say that I was his mother and that his father had kidnapped him. So just to give you an idea of what it's like to go through with this particular topic called schizophrenia. It is a topic that most people, most family members are probably ashamed to talk about, but we do need to talk about these things, because if we don't talk about them, it's not going to go away. And so we need to face the fact that these things do happen. And so I thought maybe I would define for you, before we do that, what is schizophrenia. And the definition that I came up with from the search in the web that I thought was pretty good, because it relates to, it's similar to some of what I've personally experienced. It is labeled as a long-term mental illness of a type involving a breakdown in the relation between thoughts, emotions, and behavior. You remember I told you about he thought I was his mother and his father was a kidnapper, leading to faulty perception and inappropriate actions and feelings, withdrawal from reality and personal relationships, into fantasy and delusion, and a sense of mental fragmentation. So if you've never heard, you experience a family member with who is going through schizophrenia, and you've never heard a clear definition, hopefully that will help you to get a clear definition. And I also wanted to know, who does it affect? And I realized the statistics says 20 million people worldwide are affected by this. So it's not just a thing that goes on in the United States, it's worldwide. And most likely it starts at 16 and 25, but it is not as common as many of the other mental disorders. And so there it is. And the question is there life after a schizophrenic diagnosis? And our guest today here is a testimony that there is life. So whatever your dreams are or were, you can still manage to fulfill your dreams. And so let me go ahead and introduce my guest and let her kind of take it from there. Tell us your name, please.
My name is Alice Wilson.
Mm-hmm. And are you married?
Yes, I'm married.
Uh-huh.
And
Any
I have
children?
twins.
Uh-huh. You're married and you have twins?
Yes.
Okay. Now, were you married at the time that you had your first schizophrenic episode?
Yes. I was married, and I had my twins, and they were the age of 9 and 10. 9 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you had actually young children when you first started to notice certain symptoms.
Yes.
So just to get a little background, what was your occupation before schizophrenia?
I was working as the secretary for the vice president of Florida Memorial College.
Mm-hmm.
And
all right.
I was very successful there.
Mm-hmm.
And until the incident happened with me, of hearing voices and things like that.
Okay, and we're going to get into that too in a few minutes. So what do you do now?
Now I'm a writer and a teacher of playing gospel music by ear.
Mm-hmm.
And also my hobby is art.
I
like to draw.
Mm-hmm. Well, you must share some of your artwork with me sometime.
Yes, I would love to.
No, I would love to see it too. So now, when did you start having the interest in the playing gospel music by ear? Was this pre schizophrenia, or was it after schizophrenia?
It was before that time. I always had an interest in playing gospel music, and I could never get it together.
Mm-hmm.
Like really get it together. But after I went through the process of schizophrenia and everything, I became more in tune to music.
So after you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, you became more your music, what you loved and wanted to do. It appears as if it became clearer to you that you truly could do this.
Yes.
Okay. So, is there anything else that you want to share about your family or your work and your hobby and also the teacher part where you play piano, teaching people? Well, you also have a book. I know that you have a book. And that book was done after you had gone through your episode with schizophrenia. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So what was the first thing, Alice, that you noticed about what was happening to you?
Well, the first thing I noticed was I kept crying. I would run out of my office, and I would run to my car, and I would just boo-hoo cry. And I didn't know what was going on, and my boss began to ask me, "Are you okay?"
Right.
See, I had just recently lost my mother.
Okay.
And she was thinking that it was my mother's death that caused me to go through this episode. So she began to be concerned about me, and she said, "Is there anything that I can do?" And I said, no, I'll be all right. I was just pushing it on the side. But as time progressed, I began to get more in tune of hearing voices. And I just didn't know what to do. And I was thinking people were talking and laughing about me. And it just made me feel really bad, that people would be talking about me and laughing at me. And I was at the point of just leaving everything alone, just giving up everything, and so what I did was I started going to the doctor. And I didn't tell the doctor that I was hearing voices or anything, but I visited the doctor's office about 2 to 3 times a week.
Right.
And the doctor knew that it was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor began to ask me, are you okay? Are you hearing voices?
Mm-hmm.
And I slowly said, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, she said, I want you to go and see a psychiatrist. I said, oh, no, I don't need to see no psychiatrist. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept going on and on. So she said, I'm going to give you this number, and I want you to call them and make an appointment and go and see them, because right now you have a episode of hearing voices, and that's not good.
Okay. So at the time you were married and you had these young children, how did it affect your relationship with your children?
They thought I was had flipped.
Mm.
They thought I was somebody strange or stranger. You know, they couldn't understand what was going on with me.
Okay.
And so they began to cry.
Oh, my. So I take it that you would have some of these crying episodes in front of them.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I tried to hide it, but I couldn't.
Mm.
It was just that forceful.
So you were being married at the time. How did it affect your husband, your relationship with him?
Well, he was trying to find out who was trying to bother me.
That's so.
Somebody was trying to harm me.
Uh-huh.
So he
rose up to the plate, you know. Hey, I'm Tarzan. You messing with my Jane, okay? I gotta get to the bottom of this.
Yeah,
so what did he do? How did he react? What was he doing, if anything? Because he actually believed what you were saying to him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Uh-huh. So what did he do with that?
He would have me and him to get in the car, and we would go driving. And as we was driving, I told him, somebody following us. Somebody following us. Ah! You know, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something wrong. He said, you sure somebody following us?
Mm-hmm.
And he came to the realization that there was something wrong, and I needed to go and see a doctor.
Okay. So what else did you start to notice as your disorder started to progress?
I began to talk to the ants.
Mm-hmm.
And talk.
You mean
to
the
them
ants
like
that's on the ground?
Yeah, the ants on the ground. I would look at them and point at them and say, don't hurt them, you know, because they are children. And, you know, it was just all types of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. So from your perspective going through this, having started with hearing voices and then started talking to the ants and your crying episodes, what was it like as this illness was progressing? What was going through your mind?
It was unbearable. It was stressful.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't express myself. I tried to explain, and every time I tried to explain, I would be quiet and just start crying because I thought somebody was trying to harm my family, and I didn't understand what was going on at the time.
Go on.
And so I was just, I was very embarrassed. And people would see me, people that I knew, and I was ashamed and I didn't want to talk to him because I was well known. And, you know, by being in the ministry and everything like that, and it just made me feel very embarrassed that I had to go through something like this.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up right now. And do you have anything else you want to say about the progression of your illness? Because we're going to do another take, which is we're going to talk about the treatment and your surrender and the treatment.
No, that's about it.
I understand that you wrote 2 books, and also, well, can you tell us which book, give us the name, and also a little bit about what it's about? And then if you wouldn't mind giving your website out so that if people who hear this might be interested in going to the website just to check out more of what you have to say.
Well, one of my books is called Unveiling the Secret to Playing Gospel Music by Ear, Lessons for Beginners. And it tells the different techniques. It shows different scales and chords, and it gives the different scale degrees. You know, for beginners, it's a very good book. It took me time to write this book, and I said that I didn't want beginners to go through what I went through, trying to learn how to play gospel music by ear. And these are the foundational tools that each and every one will be glad to have, that musicians won't take time to show you, you know, because they just don't know how to express how to do this. But God gave me a gift, and I want to share it to those who are beginning in music, even those who are intermediate in music. This would be a great help to them. And that's the first book. The second book is Lessons for Beginners, and this book is with Unveiling the Secret to Playing Gospel Music by Ear. It's dealing with the key of C. A lot of people like the key of C because they say it's an easy key, and it tells different songs, different melodies. And if you're interested in getting the book, you can go to playpianobyearforbeginners.com, and you can look at the website and go through there, and you would see as you go to shop, it will tell you about it will show you the book, and it have on my website, it tells some historical things that happened, like with Mahalia Jackson. She's one famous author, singer that I really enjoyed. And if you're really interested in purchasing the book, you can go to playpianobyearforbeginners.com.
All right, playpianobyearforbeginners.com. And I'm really impressed because my grandson, he has not chosen the path of trying to grow or to do anything different except to just feed into his illness. And I just wanted people to have hope, be inspired by your story, because you did all of these books after your schizophrenic episode, after you were diagnosed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so now, right then and there, so what that says to me is that even if you have a mental illness, you can still work through and do certain things. You may not. I'm sure you have your moments, but you at least have been able to work through And this, I understand this was a dream that you had as a child growing up.
Oh, yes. At the age of 12, I desired to play the piano, but my grandparents wasn't able to afford for me to go to get lessons or anything like that. And as time progressed, I still had that desire to play the piano, and it's just amazing. God. They say God works in mysterious ways.
Mm-hmm.
He works in mysterious ways, and he worked it out for me. And I just want to share what I have learned, and to make it easier for someone else that's trying to venture out into the music area.
Amen. I love that that kind of push and drive that you had in spite of your mental disorder. And so, folks, you've heard Alice Wilson share her story as she has come forth and just been real honest about what she was going through. And, of course, if you have a family member that suffers from mental illness, you may have gone through all of the cycles that Alice talked about. If you are a person who has had a mental or have a mental illness or schizophrenia specific, because that's what we're talking about, then you may have felt the same way that Alice did, and you may be feeling a bit hopeless that there's nothing for you to do, but you will find something to do. And like Alice was saying, that she's doing one of her hobbies is art. So no matter where you find yourself, you can always move out of that place. And I just believe that with God's help and seeking Him and asking Him, what is my purpose and what can I do after this illness, it certainly could be the turning point for your life. And so if you want to experience more stories like this, I would just share with you that you can go to ccplifechangers.com and read a few more stories of people that have incredible stories and that have overcome incredible odds in their lives. And so, again, I am Blondie Clayton, and my guest today is Alice Wilson. And Alice, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for persevering. Thank you for being an example of someone who has a mental disorder, and yet you are still being used by God to move forward. And I think that is truly, I love it. I love you, and I definitely want to see some of your artwork. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead on and close out, and then I want to bring you back another day and talk about your treatment. What were some of the turning points that brought you to the place where you just knew that either you felt yourself that you weren't going to get any better, or how you ended up in treatment? I think it's the thing that we want to know mostly. So with that being said, I just want to say good evening or good night wherever you are right now. We'll talk to you again soon.